Okay, now it says we're live. So, hi, I'm Dr. Deborah Vinall. I'm a mental health therapist and author of two books on mental health and self care, gaslighting and trauma recovery workbook. And I'm here today with Canadian returnee, one of the Substack authors that I enjoy following here on Substack. And he's generously going to be sharing his story about immigration from Canada to the United States to Hong Kong and repatriation back into Canada, and how those processes of immigration and repatriation impact in his experience, impact mental health. We are also going to talk a little bit about suicidal ideation. So I just want to put that out at the beginning. For anybody who feels like that content might be too heavy for them right now, I don't want you to be caught unawares. And my friend Canadian Returnee is going to stay with his camera off today for his anonymity. But I really appreciate you being here today with us on audio.
No, thanks a lot, Dr. Vinall. Yeah, as she mentioned, I'm Canadian returnee. I am a writer on Substack or a content creator. I mostly talk about issues in Canada. On occasion, I will post articles about the American experience and relevant
Yeah,
updates on notes. Yeah, thank you.
you have a great perspective from both sides, and I think that adds a lot of value. Kind of a stepping outside of a situation and being able to explore it, but with the in-depth knowledge of it then both sides.
No, I'm glad it's helpful. I think there are people there are readers who want to know what life is like in Canada, and there are others who want to know about some nuances like living in the States. So I'm glad some of those updates are helpful. And there's things I learn I also share on the notes,
Mm-hmm.
like Canadian history, figures
Mm-hmm.
like Black History Month. I've been sharing some individuals and sourcing them from other pages that are well versed in those areas.
Yeah, yeah. And for context, I'm also a Canadian native born and raised and came to the United States in adulthood. So I share some of that immigration story and always have that question of repatriation on my mind, although right now I'm in California. And you're in Ontario, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I wound up moving back to Ontario. Originally, when I was young, the family immigrated from Hong Kong to Quebec province in the mid '80s. I got naturalized, and then through some personal situation, I wound up having to move to the States to live there and rebuild a life there. And then after there, I eventually got naturalized and worked in the U.S. for a few years, then moved to Hong Kong for several years, close to a decade, where I built a life, a family. And then when things changed in Hong Kong, I wound up moving back to Canada. And we've been
Mm.
rebuilding ever since.
So much transition.
Yes.
So could you share with us a little bit from your many experiences, international news, what impact that has had on your mental?
I think in terms of mental health, in my case, it's just a lack of a solid identity. As far as I'm concerned, knowing what I know now, I am Canadian.
Mhm.
In fact, in appearance and in living and lifestyle. When I first grew up in Quebec province, because I wasn't white, and I think this was in the late '80s, early '90s, there's just a lot of hostility. We were seen as the other, the people
Mhm.
that were there to be indoctrinated to keep Quebec from becoming an independent French republic,
Mhm.
and just casual discrimination, even the school teachers, and it was not fitting in in the worst ways possible. And then moving to the States, it was different. There was a little bit more diverse, but the people there, especially the Asians, they really work hard to try to fit in as model minorities. So they
Mhm.
don't really are functionally bilingual, and they try to study hard, overachieve, and just be almost like a people pleasing community. You're seeing that less of the case now in the States, and even less so in Canada, where you can be a certain origin, but you don't have to you can be what you want to be as long as you have the means and the circumstances to do so. So
Mhm.
that really affected my identity, and I feel pressure to
Mhm.
always overachieve and fit in and follow
Mhm.
everyone else, even if I didn't want to.
I know from a lot of Asian immigrant or first generation clients I've worked with, that tends to often lead to a lot of anxiety, the sense of the pressure to be the model minority. Is that your
Yeah,
experience as well?
yeah, I think that's the problem. I think in California, like,
Mhm,
the Asian community is, like, a little bit more organized, a little bit more like,
mhm,
diverse. They
mhm,
don't feel the pressure as much as, like, people that live outside of California, so they think everything's fine. I think that's why there was so much shock in California, especially the Asians living there when they had the Asian hate incidents during COVID. It was something like the rest of America, like, knew about or was like, knew how to defend themselves at the very worst, and then it was just, like, a huge shock for, like, the community in California because apparently none of these things were happening or it wasn't a big deal or it was
mhm,
manageable. So that was the experience in America, that Asian American experience, for lack of a better term, and then I moved
mhm.
back to Hong Kong, and
Yeah,
in
so what
there.
point
Yeah,
were you in the US? Because I do think, like, what you're pointing out, that, the United States is so large that it's not a homogeneous culture, and so that is relevant too.
it depends on, like, the where I lived in the East Coast, so I immigrated to US when I think I was, like, 8 or 9, and then I moved to Hong Kong when I was, like, in my late 20s.
Mhm,
Yeah, and then in Hong Kong, like, I wasn't considered local, like, I felt like an outsider because I lived in the US and Canada for too long,
mhm,
and I think they kinda pick up if you're a local or even, like, a kid that grew up in, like, the international school system, which I wasn't, because I
mhm,
didn't have, I didn't have that net worth to, like, flaunt. So it was just trying to figure out who I was hang out with. Just I work mostly with the foreign, like, colleagues. I met my wife who happened to be open-minded, and we just built a life there in spite of
mhm.
those, like, challenges and reconnecting.
Yeah, I think that's really one of the hardest things, about being an immigrant and immigration is that sense of never fully belonging. There's, a lot of people are very coming from a very good place. They're saying things like, "Well, we're all immigrants right now," as there's such an attack on especially Latino immigrants or really any immigrant of color in the United States right now. But it really, it isn't so much solidarity as erasure because it takes away the reality that to be an immigrant isn't about history, but it's about that lived experience of never fully belonging or never fully feeling that you don't have the same shared history as everybody around you that connects you with everybody. And there's an extra hill to climb to fit in.
No, that's true, and I think it reached a point where I'm just not gonna try to fit in. I'll just be myself and
Mhm,
have my sense of self-respect. Because I think we all know, like, based on what's happening now or from past experiences, like, no matter how hard you try, you'll never fit in. There's
mhm,
been some model minority Asians that I've met who've, like, worked really hard to fit in, like, in terms of being inoffensive, in terms
mhm,
of overachieving at work or in school, and then at the end of the day, they still talk about, "Oh, my skin complexion. Oh, my appearance makes me feel insecure when I'm dealing with diverse or, like, non-Asians." And then
mhm,
I just look at them like, "You've compromised yourself to a point to, like, please others and fit in, yet you're still lacking self-respect and you don't assert yourself. How are you going to, like, how do you even, like, live with yourself? Or, like, how do you even exist?" It's just it's and you're expressing all these issues when you're just putting yourself into, like, guess, like, a almost a negative feedback loop.
mhm,
And I dealt with too many of those kinds of people that lack self-respect. They try to fit in on one hand, but they're so insecure and they're causing problems for others that don't follow their approach in, like, in what they believe to, like, advance or, like, get closer to, like, the community.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, go ahead.
Or just instant like that internalized racism or colorism, antisemitism,
Yes.
where we're still trying to live up, or people are still trying to live up to really ridiculous ideals of what it means to belong.
Yeah, and then I and that on the other extreme, there are others who, like, realize that they have self-respect. It means being functionally bilingual, having some general knowledge of their culture. In the States, you're seeing this with like, large sections of the Hispanic or Latinx community. They're functionally bilingual. They know the basic culture. In Canada, I can speak at least for the Asian community here. It's like it's mostly bilingual. They know Mandarin or Cantonese. They follow the
Mhm,
basic customs. They can speak English like any other, like, native Canadian, and they also speak Cantonese in a way that, like, can talk with their relatives or get things done in terms of professional or personal needs. So I think that's probably the better approach, is to have that, be able to, like, be able to like integrate, but at the same time have your sense of self and identity. And then you have others, and then you have others you can lean on as like part of the community to like look out for you, instead of just like stepping over each other to become the minority for short-term gains.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's that basic ideology, I think, is the one thing that really divides us all, is the idea that either the world is hierarchical or it's horizontal, in that where there's equality and then we can support one another. But when this idea is hierarchical, but then we get into this idea of having to climb on others to elevate ourselves, to compete with one another in order to achieve that.
Yeah, it's that zero-sum mindset. Like I wrote about it in an article like week earlier. It's just very counterproductive, just as a society and as individuals. Sorry.
Yeah, and it will never achieve happiness, no matter how high up you climb, if you have to get there by stepping on others.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, without having to go into any detail that isn't comfortable to you or anything that's graphic, tell us a little bit about what brought you down the road toward suicidal ideation and even a hospitalization for that.
Yes. I think there's
feedback.
or
Or echo. Oh dear. You sound okay to me. Hopefully that it doesn't sound echoey to anybody listening.
Okay, so
It's probably just my phone.
Okay, so
Trigger warnings.
So what
So
led
what led
to
to
the actual
the actual
suicide
suicide
attempt?
attempt?
Well,
Well,
beyond
beyond
ideation.
ideation.
I think it's
I
just the
think it's just the
stress of
stress of
living
living
in
in
Canada
Canada
with
with
virtually no
virtually no
support
support
system.
system.
I was
I
working
was
in
working
a
in a
contract job
contract
that
job that
didn't get
didn't get
extended,
extended,
and a bit
and a
of
bit
toxic
of toxic
positivity
positivity
from the
from
social
the social
circle.
circle at the time. Which really takes away the genuineness of
Yeah.
what you might have had.
Yes. And then
Yes.
the
And
immediate
then
step
we
by called 988,
988,
the
the
suicide hotline.
suicide hotline.
Instead of
Instead of
talking
talking
me
me
down or
down
talking
or
me out
talking
of
me out of
whatever I was
whatever I
thinking
was
about,
thinking about,
they kept
they kept
asking
asking me
what I was going
what
to
I
do
was going to do next
repeatedly. And I kept saying,
And I
I
kept
don't
saying, I
know.
don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
And after a
And
while,
after
I
a while,
just
I just
found rope.
found rope
And then it
and then
answered
it
that.
answered that.
And I think
And
there's
I think
also
there's also
contact the
contact the
police
police
to stop
to
me, but
stop
it
me,
never
but that
happened.
never happened.
So I guess the
So I guess the
takeaway is in
takeaway is in
Canada,
Canada,
if you have
if you have
suicide
suicide
ideation,
ideation,
don't call
don't call
988.
988.
Call the other
Call the
numbers
other
too,
numbers,
or call your
or
close
call your
friends,
close friends,
including a social
including a
worker, to
social
help
worker,
you out.
help you out. Yeah.
So
So and keep
my neck
calling
was
for
bleeding.
somebody, if
My mouth was
my mouth
bloody.
was bloody enough
I was sent
to
into the
something
hospital
hospital
for a mental health
mental health
surgery.
surgery after that.
I'll leave it at
I'll leave
that.
it at that. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that you do to try calling for support. And I think that's something that would be an important takeaway for anybody listening, is when you're having these kinds of thoughts, like, do reach out to other people. Like you said, family and friends might be a better choice.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're not getting a hold of anybody, or you just can't find the courage to do that, like, then do call a hotline, but don't give up. Keep calling until you find somebody, because you do matter. And this is a very, very short-term solution to something that it might not be the answer that you would have wanted later on. And I mean, so now you're 2 months out from this. Is that correct?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. And I mean, to look back, um, I imagine your perspective has changed. What would you say to that?
I think
I think my
perspective now,
it's like
I need
I need better
chosen
chosen
families
families
and a
and a
support
support
system.
system.
And the
And
company
the
I worked
company I
for at
worked
the
for at
time
the time
was
was
toxic.
toxic.
They
They
managed a lot
managed a lot of empathy,
and I think that
and I
needed
think
work.
that needed work. Yeah, creating a lot of stress where you didn't have a support system to help you move through that. And that, like, I mean, linking back to the question of immigration and repatriation and moving about, it makes it very difficult to have that extended support system and always having to build up from the ground up. So that when things get tough, that leaves you without so much of a safety net. Hey.
Yeah, I think the
I think
funny
the
thing
funny
is,
thing is,
in
in
Canada, I
Canada,
do
I
have
do have
relatives,
relatives,
extended family,
extended family,
but they
but
would
they would
A,
A,
distance
distance
themselves,
themselves,
or B,
or
make
B,
complete
make complete
excuses
excuses
to not
to not
connect.
connect.
You can have people and still be very lonely.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
that's
think that's
particularly true.
the weird thing.
And then if
And
I
then
did
if
have
I did
friends
have
here
friends here
that
that
immigrated with
immigrated
me,
with me,
they
they
either are busy
either are busy
before,
before,
or they just
or they just
protecting
protecting
themselves
themselves
by being
by being
toxic negative,
toxic negative,
meaning that they
meaning
don't
that
want to
they don't want to
listen,
listen,
they shut
they
down any
shut down any
discussion,
discussion,
or they're
or
telling
they're
me
telling
that
me that
I have
I
my
have
help,
my help,
or just telling
or
me
just
that
telling me that
even though I'm
even though I'm
drowning
drowning
or I'm feeling
or I'm feeling
overwhelmed,
overwhelmed,
I should stay
I should stay
positive
positive
because
because
everyone around
everyone
me
around
is
me is
enjoying life.
enjoying life.
So I don't know
So
how
I
that
don't know
works.
how that works. That's
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 very
just very
unhelpful in
unhelpful in
general.
general.
What would you say to somebody listening who might be aware that somebody in their life is very depressed or possibly struggling with these kinds of thoughts? How do you wish others concretely would show up for you or for the people in their lives that need this kind of need support?
I think
I
if there's
think if
someone
there's someone
who's
who's
going through
going through
challenges,
challenges,
one, find
one,
someone to
find
talk
someone to
to.
talk to.
It could be
It
someone
could
in
be
the
someone in a
community
community
or
or a
spiritual
spiritual
advisor.
advisor.
Like all
Like
options are
options are
viable.
viable.
If there are
If there
people
are
that are
people that are
toxic
toxic
negative
negative
or don't want to
or
listen
don't
to
want to
you,
listen,
you might
you
want
might
to
want to
gradually distance
gradually distance
yourself.
yourselves.
It's a tough
It's a tough
decision, but it has
decision,
to be
but it has to
done.
be done.
And then if
And then
there's
if there's
probably people
probably
that in your
people
family
in
that
your
are like
family that are
that,
like that,
you might have
you might
to
have to
revisit who your
revisit who your
chosen family.
chosen
It could be
family,
your
it could be
circle
your
of
circle of
friends.
friends,
It could be
it
like
could be like
reliable family
reliable
members
family members,
or a mix
or
of
a
those
mix of those
individuals.
individuals.
Yeah, chosen family can be so powerful and very often so much more supportive. You know, I oftentimes when we're struggling and we're depressed and down or lonely, I know for myself, when I'm in a darker space, I might reach out to a friend and say, like, hey, can we get coffee? And if they're like, oh, I'm really busy, I'm like, oh, okay. They don't have space for me right now. But instead, like, I think it can be, it may be necessary and helpful to say, like, instead of just like, hey, are you available? Um, I'm in a dark space right now. I really need a friend. Could we get together? So putting out a little bit more of that vulnerable authenticity that says, this isn't just casual, like I really do need you. And then see if people, not to manipulate people, but to give them that honest truth to help them make that decision of prioritization of, are they wanting to show up for you? Because very often they might not have realized just how crucial of an ask it was if you're afraid to really be authentic with how much you're hurting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Even if
Even
you
if you
don't go out for
don't go out for
coffee,
coffee,
you can just
you can
reach
just
out
reach
and
out
just
and
ask if
just
you want to
ask
have
if you
like a
want to have
quick
like a
call.
quick call.
Yeah.
I think that
I think
helps at
that
the very
helped at the
least.
very least.
You'll be
You'll be
surprised
surprised
how much
It's
it
how
very
much is that
interesting. We
difference.
forgot that we can talk on our phones.
exactly.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or on
Or on
FaceTime.
FaceTime.
Yeah. Yeah. There really are a lot of options, and thinking flexibly about ways to connect can really help.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
In addition to reaching out for support and wishing you had more people that were close and reliable in your life, are there any other things that you would add that you wish you had in place in your life, or that you had known or could think of, could remember at that dark time in your life?
I think
I
looking
think
back,
looking back,
these are things
these are
beyond my
things beyond my
control.
control.
I think it's
I
just
think it's
growing
just
up
growing
in
up
a
in a
stable
stable
household.
household.
Yeah.
I think that's
I think
one.
that's one.
Mhm.
Having like
Having
real
like real
family that
family
care
that care
and that
and
count.
to count.
Right. Yeah, some of these are not variables we can shape, but I think that's where, and I know you've mentioned that you do talk to a therapist too. I think that's where the value of therapy can come in, because we can't change the past, but we can definitely change our relationship to the past and to the hurt inner child, the inner parts that are so wounded by perhaps not having adequate parenting or by having abuse from important people in our lives as we grow up. And when we can start to bring compassion where there's shame, that can really heal a lot of what anchors us into despair.
No,
No,
absolutely.
absolutely. I think
One of the things
one
is
of the
to
things
focus
that's
on what we can control now versus what's
versus
beyond
what's
our
beyond our
control,
control.
and work from
And
there.
Yeah. Finding our power takes us far from that sort of despair that can lead to suicidal ideation. So I also wanted to ask you what message would you want to share with anybody who might be listening or might listen later, who might be having fleeting or concrete thoughts of self-harm or suicide?
I think
I
if there are
think if for people that are going through hard times
or in a
or
dark
in a dark path,
just know
just
that you're
know
not
that you're not
alone.
alone.
There are
There
ways
are
to
ways to
work through
work
them.
through them.
I think it's
I think it's one
figuring out
sort of respectful
friends and
friends
family
and
that you
family
can trust,
trust
that you can
that
lean
you
on
can
and
lean on
work
and
with.
work with.
The other
The
part
other
is
part is
finding something
finding something
productive
productive
that will
that will
keep you focused
and
towards a goal.
towards a goal.
Mm.
And
And
lastly, it's
lastly, it's
connecting with
connecting with
spiritual
spiritual
advisors
advisors
or mental
or
health
mental health
professionals
professionals
if you have the
if
means
you
to
have the
do
means
so.
to do so.
Or both.
Yeah, or both,
Yes, or both,
of course.
of course.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And so, yeah, just shifting back into the present and future oriented thought. Um, Before we wrap up, tell me just a little bit more about your Substack and the purpose you're finding there and what you are trying to put into the world and what you're trying to achieve with your writing.
Yeah, to sum up, my
My
Substack
Substack
is
is
writing
writing
about
about
Canadian and
Canadian
U.S.
and U.S.
current events,
current events, including politics,
world
world
news,
news,
and
and
personal growth
personal growth
topics.
topics.
So
So
sometimes I
sometimes I
learn about
learn
different
about different
topics,
topics,
like
like
Indigenous
Indigenous
history,
history,
and I'll write
and I'll
about
write
that.
about that.
Other parts is
Other
just
parts is
talking
just
about
talking about
experiences living
experiences
in the
living in
U.S.
the
or
U.S.
Canada,
or Canada,
and then
and
sharing
then
those
sharing those
insights
insights
and hoping it
and
helps
hoping it
in
helps
some
in some
fashion.
fashion.
Yeah. I find your writing is really grounded, well-researched, and authentic from lived experience. And so I hope that some of people listening will check that out and see what you have to offer.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks for
tuning
tuning
in.
in. I hope it's
Helpful.
helpful.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you so much, Canadian returnee, for sharing a bit of your story, the struggles, the challenges, and the overcoming path that you are on with anybody who's tuned in today. I really appreciate you connecting with me and taking this time out.
No, thank you,
No, thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
Vinall, for
Vinall, for
connecting
connecting
and having this
having
chat.
this chat.
I hope it's
I hope
helpful
it's helpful
to
to
your
your
listeners
listeners
and
and
readers.
readers.
Yes, me too. My pleasure. And once more, just to reiterate to anybody listening, if you're in a dark place, hold on, reach out, know that this doesn't have to be the end. There is hope. You do matter. Your life is so worthwhile, even if you can't see it right now. I hope you can find somebody who will help you see it too. So I'm Dr. Deborah Vinall with Mental Health Musings, speaking with Canadian Returnee. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
No, thank you.
No, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, my
pleasure.
pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.